So, for this last video of the day, it's time to talk about another one release band, but this is not a Shrapnel Records band. This is a band that was on, this is definitely kind of probably close to there to like Sonic Destroys as probably, independent metal bands. But this band also had a release through, even though this release was reissued through Shark Records, and of course Shark Records seems to be doing stuff still. They seem to be working with a lot of Greek bands. I don't know if it's the same Shark Records, but it seemed like they've been working with a bit other bands, like of course No Remorse is from the really early No Remorse Records releases, especially for like Mad Butcher's Metal Lightning Attack. But here, this is Powerlord. Now, definitely one of the more really early power thrash metal bands. Now, of course, Powerlord, again, independent metal band, only released one thing, was titled The Awakening. You know what? I'm going to be proud enough and just show it. I remember checking this album out. Yes, it does get considered like an album. I said that with the Villain review that I was going to talk about another release. I was around 30 minutes. It actually does get considered as a full-length album. This is. But the thing is, I wouldn't even consider this an EP because at times it feels a bit too complete at times. But this is definitely that. This is, of course, the Shadow Kingdom Records reissue. Shit. I remember checking this out back in 2010, and I was quite blown away by what I heard. This was a very raw, unbrittled, very uneasy sounding power thrash metal album. This is just one that just had a lot of raw force behind it. This was just, to me, Dane Cook's voice. Do not be confused with the comedian. His voice on this is like if you had decided to combine Dan Beeler with Blackie Lawless. And what you end up getting is that type of voice. It just seems to be that because of, I think it does go in some barking like vocals as well. That's definitely kind of typical of your thrash metal sound. But this is definitely very much close to that US power metal sound, kind of like Metal Church or Liege Lord or and I've seen some, like on Shadow Kingdom Records, they definitely compare them like Fate's Warning. Probably the early stuff with like maybe some of the heavier parts off like No Exit or maybe Spectre Within, but this is definitely a power thrash metal album. But of course, guitar work from here, Tony Gurley. Geez, I talk about Ron Chick and now I got fucking Tony Gurley. But at least this guy doesn't look like a fucking girl, which I've never seen photos of Ron Chick, so I don't know if that guy actually looks like a chick. So, let's just get to it without any jokes thrown in. But if that guy's last name wasn't that, I probably wouldn't even make that joke. So let's definitely go in. Album starts up with Masters of Death. Oh, fucking man, just right from this track, riff progressions, the way it starts off, this is a heavy chugging riff that just starts off, even when you do hear Tony's guitar work, which is very, very skilled. This, and then, of course, as the song progresses, it goes into different riff changes and stuff, and we do get to hear, the singing of Dane Cook, and wow, this, again. Then we get Malice. This is definitely more, right to the jugular shit. This is just, really good track. I just love this. This the aggression and everything, even the chorus. Malice! Ah! And even the last part. Malice, kill, something like that. It's a fucking real killer track. Then we got Silent Terror, which is actually one of the softer songs. It starts off very soft, very atmospheric, slow, and at times even very doomy. It's at times very even close to like the likes of Tyrant, off of like, the first album, even within Too Late to Pray. Yeah, at times even like, this can be even compared like Ruthless. But this is at times even better than Ruthless if you ask me. This is definitely just another really good track. The Invasion of the Lord is probably the one of the more, really more thrashier track. This is even more aggressive than Malice. It's very similar, but it's just, fuck, really good track. Merciless Titans, which is a little more pre-sounding. It's definitely, it's not like Silent Terror, but it's still very good. It's more pre-sounding, kind of, this is another killer track. And then some of the sound does remind me of the sound that Judas Priest would take with Painkiller. Really good. Then, of course, it ends with the Awakening Powerlord, which is just starts out very marching light. Like, I said light. Dumb. But just starts off with that before then going into another real ripping speed metal track. This is another really killer track. It's a 6-song, track affair, and each song is just as good as the other. This is just a fucking killer EP, album, whatever you want to call it. It's just killer. Really is, and definitely one of my favorites when it comes to, of like these obscure metal releases. Next, like the Slaughter Destroys Winter Kill, but I heard the sound before I heard the Slaughter Destroys Winter Kill, but both these would rank up there as some of the best, really obscure metal releases. This is just a fucking killer album all the way through. Really love this. Of course, this band would record some stuff, especially there's actually live footage of songs that were written, that were supposed to be written for a new album. It was supposed to be written for a follow-up to The Awakening, and there is recordings of that, but apparently, according to this, they didn't use them because of the fact that they weren't very good sounding. If anything, they had a very raw recording or something. I guess they just didn't sound good. And if they did, they would have made them as bonus tracks. But they didn't. And this sound was going to be released through High Voltage Records back in the day, like 90s and such, but they had a contract with High Voltage, and that contract had ran up very surprisingly, so this could be reissued in 2014. Because it was bootlegged many times. This is definitely a killer album nonetheless, and it's the only thing they released, and it's quite a shame because this is a fucking solid release. So, with that, if you have heard The Awakening by Powerlord, what are your thoughts? If you have any thoughts, you can post your comments down below. This is Heavy Thrasher saying, I'm out! It's time to just take a break for this day, and before I get on to the next slew of bands for the last week of US Power Metal Month.